Once you've sewn around the edge, you can take the pins out and then flip it over and see what you have created. So, what you have done is attach the front panel with the side panels, and the seams line up pretty nice. So the front panel is ultimately done for now. Now we need to deal with the back side of the backpack. So put this to the side. So now we're going to work on the straps and create the straps first. So bring your 12 by 5 pieces that you cut out, and you have 2 of each, 2 dark green 12 by 5 and 2 light green 12 by 5. And what you're going to do first is pin them together. You're going to do right side against right side. So flip them so that the wrong sides are facing out, and that the right side of the dark green and the right side of the light green are facing each other. You're going to line up an edge, and then you are going to pin across. And you're going to do this for both pieces. So these 4 pieces ultimately will become 2 whole straps. All right, so let's go to the sewing machine and we'll do a straight stretch stitch using our dark green thread across where we pinned. I've pinned the 12 by 5 pieces together with the wrong sides facing out, and using my dark green thread, I'm going to sew those 2 together. I have adjusted my needle so that is all the way to my right. And once again, I'm on a straight stretch stitch. My width is at 2. My tension's at 3. So let's just go ahead and stitch this down. In this case, I'm lining up my edge of my foot with the edge of my fabric. All right, so there's my first one completed. Nice straight line. And let's bring in your second one and do the same thing. All right, so when we're done with that step, you have both of your pieces sewn on the edge. Here's our 2 pieces that we just sewed a straight line across. You now need to open them up. And what you are going to do for both of them is, with the right side up, you're going to flip and start at the seam first. You're going to flip them over so that the side edges meet, and you are going to pin them in place. Once again, start with where the light and the dark seam meet so that these make a nice continuation in your strap. So as soon as you get them all lined up, just go ahead and start pinning. I always like to go to the ends and so that at least the two ends are secure. That way everything ends up symmetrical. Now that both straps are pinned together, you're going to go back to your sewing machine and you are going to do a straight stitch along the edge that you pinned together. So using the settings that we had before, dark green thread, my needle is all the way over to my right. I'm lining up the foot of my sewing machine with the edge of my fabric. And we'll just do a stitch all the way down. All right, one's done. Do the same thing for the second. Alright, so we have two straps that are now sewed together. Alright, we've sewed the straps together. Next step is you need to take off the tape. We're done with the tape on the straps because you are going to flip these inside out. And I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to have the tape on the inside, but it's nice not to have it. So you're going to take some time and a little bit of muscle and flip these inside out. Once you've flipped your straps inside out, you have some choices that you can make. One of the choices is you can stuff the straps to make them a little bit more 3D. On my original backpack that I made, I did not stuff them because I thought that 2 layers of fleece together was poofy enough. I think for this backpack, I think I'm gonna stuff one of the straps and see what it looks like, and compare it to one that's not stuffed and to my original. I just kind of want to see what it looks like. Also, you have choices on what you want to stuff it with. You can go out and get the typical poly fluff. I did stuff one of my straps from a prototype backpack out of scrap fabric that I made. And the problem I found with this is it kind of makes it lumpy. It's not consistent enough, and I couldn't get it to spread out the way that I liked it, which ultimately made me decide not to stuff the final backpack product that I made. So you have that option you can try. And there's other options. Another option I found that I think I'm going to try this time is this quilter's batting, which already comes kind of flat. So I'm going to cut out a strip of it and manipulate it so I can fit it in one of these straps. And I want to see what that looks like. I have a feeling that might look pretty good. So we're going to see how that will go. That's the method I'm going to try. Also, another choice you have is maybe you can find a thin piece of foam at the store and put a thin piece of foam down the center if you like. But once again, you don't really have to do anything. With nothing in them, the strap is pretty fluffy already. But I'm just going to try something different here and see what it looks like with the batting inside. Now let's go over some of your options. I stuffed one of the straps with the batting, and I like it. In fact, I like it so much I'm going to go with it. So I'm going to stuff the other one with the batting, and I'll show you how I did that. But once again, you don't have to do anything here. You can just keep the strap as it is and go on to the next step of attaching it to the back side of your backpack. For me, I like the batting, so I'm going to show you how to put the batting in the second strap, or at least how I did it. There's probably an easier way, but this is how I did it. First of all, your batting rolls out. So I just laid my strap on top and I just cut a strip out, and I made it somewhat skinnier, less wide than the strap, so it fits in nice. So that's what I have as far as my batting. Then I took some, what are these called? Wire ties. Sure, why not? And I stuck the zip tie through the end of the batting, and I zip that one shut, and I cut the excess off. So essentially you have, I don't know, a loop at the end to hold it. Then I took some twine. I know, there must be an easier way, but as long as it gets done. I took some twine and I threaded it around the zip tie that we had, and I tied the ends together like that. So essentially I have twine tied around a zip tie tied around the batting. Now, I also put another zip tie on the end of our twine because it gives me something to grab onto. So let me do that. And I left the end on. It's kind of like your needle when you're going to pull it through. Something to grab onto. So I took and I started to fold my strap up as far as I could go. And then I took the zip tie and I threaded it through the other end. And I tried to pull as much as I could. Essentially, you're trying to thread the zip tie through your strap. Once again, there's probably an easier way to do this. But this is what I came up with. Ooh, I almost have it. Got it. All right, so I'm just going to pinch the zip tie against the side of my strap, and I'm pulling this out until I get the zip tie all the way to the end. All right, so there's my zip tie all the way through with my twine. So now I'm going to line up or straighten out my strap here with my seam. All right, so here comes the moment of truth. So you're going to basically, it's, like a needle. You're going to pull your batting through and kind of get it in there to get it started. You're going to pull your batting through. Hey, 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 hey. There it goes. All right. So that's how I put my batting in my strap. Now for me, I'm going to finish this off, and I'm going to sew a nice finished edge along both sides of my strap. First of all, to keep the batting in place, and it just kind of makes it look finished for me. Remember, if you're going to do that, you don't have to. If you're going to do that, you need to use the light green thread on the light green and the dark green thread on the dark green. I have put stuffing in the straps, and now as an option, I am going to put a nice finished edge along the sides of the strap, along this side and along this side. It's dual purpose. It helps the stuffing stay in place, and I think it just makes it look nice. You don't have to do this. You can just go ahead and use this as a strap and just go on to the next step. So at this point, I'm putting that finished edge along the strap. When you do that, you need to make sure that the seams are stacked up on top of each other and stay pretty straight. You don't want them to wobble back and forth. So just take your time and do a nice straight job. Alright, so there's a nice finished edge along there. Now you could stop here if you want. You don't have to put it in. You could also put another finished edge on the other side to match it, which is what I'm going to do. Alright, so there's my two finished edges on the dark green. I'm also going to do it on this dark green, and then I'm also going to do the light green on the other straps. Here's the finished strap. It's been stuffed, and I've put edging, a nice stitch along the edge. In hindsight, I'm not sure it was worth it. I think it still looks great, but I think the unstuffed, unfinished edge looks fine too. So let's talk about attaching the straps to the backpack. So bring in your back panel, and you're going to flip it over so that you're working on the finished side or the front side. What I did is I took my seams on the straps and I made sure that my seams were on the inside of the backpack. So this strap is going to go on this side, and here's the seam on this strap, so I need to flip it, and the seam is facing the inside. So this is what side my straps are going to go on. And the way I'm going to attach my straps is find 3 inches up and 3 inches in, mark it, and then center my strap onto my back panel. So, bring out your ruler, and I have a water-based pencil here, and I have a normal pencil. It depends on what shows up better. So, along the straight side of my backpack, I measure in 3 inches, and then I mark it as best I can. And I'll do it on the other side too. And I'll go down to the bottom. I find the straight edge that we worked with, not the curve. And I'll go up 3 inches and mark it lightly. The other side, and mark it lightly. So where these two lines intersect will show me where 3 inches up and 3 inches in are located. So let me try and mark that. Once again, it's hard to mark on the fleece. Sometimes it just, I guess the word is pill. Alright, so I have a line there showing where 3 inches in is, and then a line going up showing the center mark of where that's at. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. It's going on the back side. Nobody's really going to see it. Alright. Make that line a little bit more definite. Okay, so I've marked 3 up and 3 over in my dark green. I do the same for the light green. And then what you do is you take, remember that the seam goes on the inside. So, my dark green strap just kind of needs to fold in. So find where that center mark is. And what you're ultimately going to do is pin it in place. And I just found the center of the strap on the center of where my little rectangle is going to be. I'm going to sew in a rectangle along the edges. It's kind of hard to show you. So I'm going to sew on this seam, along the bottom seam, along the side, and along the top. So I'm just going to make a little rectangle that's going to attach the strap to the back side of our backpack. And I'll do this for both the dark green, and I'll also do it for the light green. If I take it and just flip it and sew it like that, which is perfectly fine, but for me, I have this raw edge here that doesn't look so finished from the strap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over the opposite way. And then eventually that's going to get pinned in. The problem is when you fold it over, you kind of get this overlay. So how I solve that problem is I just trimmed off the corners just a little bit. just like that. So that, let me line all this up. When I fold this over, I don't get any overhang. And then when I ultimately sew it onto the back part of my backpack, it looks a lot better than just a finished edge sticking out there. So I've pinned everything in place. Once again, I went 3 down, 3 in, 3 up and 3 in, kind of to find a center area so that my straps are somewhat symmetrical. And then what I did is I folded over the fabric. In fact, I folded it over twice on itself so that I have a nice finished edge to sew on. And I've done that with all 4 edges of my straps. So what I need to do now is sew a small rectangle to secure the strap onto the back. And it needs to be a pretty heavy duty rectangle so that when whoever is going to be using this, the strap doesn't come off the back side. So I actually do a rectangle around, maybe a 1/2 inch by 1 inch rectangle. And then I do a zigzag stitch and make an X from the corner to the corner of each rectangle just to secure that strap in place. So since I have my light green thread in my sewing machine right now, I'm going to sew the light green rectangles for the tops of my straps, and then I'll also do a zigzag. Once again, this is the back side of your backpack. It does not have to be pretty, it just needs to be secure. So I have already attached 3 out of the 4 straps. So here's the light green. And once again, you can see that I try and make a rectangle at the end and then a zigzag X in the middle just to really make that bond strong. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just keeping the strap attached to the back of the backpack. And remember, whoever's going to wear this, you won't actually see that because it will be hidden by the person's back. The last one I did here was the dark green. There's the rectangle around with the crisscross diagonal. So we have one more to do. So I have my dark green thread in. I'm on a straight stretch stitch. My length is at 2. My needle is all the way over to my, well, in this case, to my left. And you just have to be very patient with this. It can be a frustrating process because you're going through a lot of pieces of fabric. So take your time. Don't get so obsessed with how it looks in this spot. I'm going to move this pin and put it a little bit farther over. All right, so I'm going to do a straight stretch stitch right here along the edge just to secure that down. When I get to the corner, I'll keep the needle in, I'll rotate the fabric, and I'll show you how I do that. I'll go up, keep the needle in the fabric, rotate the fabric, go along, keep the needle in, rotate the fabric, and end at this corner. And then I'll switch out to do the zigzag stitch. So let's see how this goes. This is probably the most frustrating part of making this bag for me because I have to go through several layers of fabric here, and I tend to have a difficult time getting everything done. I'm going to kind of go in a little bit so my foot can grab the fabric, and then I'm going to back stitch and then come back again. That might help you to get it going, because sometimes it doesn't, the sewing machine won't grab the fabric at the end. So maybe if you go into the center, get it going, and then do a back stitch and come back towards you again, it might help. So we're going to try that. All right, I'm at the corner, so I'm going to make sure that my needle is still in the fabric, lift my foot and rotate. Make sure everything's lined up. Put the foot down, and we'll see if this works. Okay, leave my needle in the fabric. Lift my foot, rotate this way. Okay, put my foot down. And so now we're making the straight line, which is the third side of the rectangle. Okay, then once you get to the corner, you need to switch over to a zigzag stitch. And I'm going to leave it at the same length of 2. I'm making sure that my needle is still in the fabric, lifting up the foot. And I'm going to line it up so I go from the corner, the upper corner that I'm at here, right down the center to the corner closest to me. This is just going to secure the strap onto the back of your backpack. So here we go. Put your foot down. Okay, now I'm switching back to my straight stitch. My needle is in the fabric, lift up my foot. I'm going to do a straight stitch from the farthest upper corner to the lower corner here, just to get my needle where it needs to be so that I can do a zigzag to the opposite corners. Okay, my needle's in, lift my foot. My final stitch is from my farthest corner. I'll zigzag it all the way to the corner closest to me. So I need to switch my stitch to a zigzag. Drop the foot, and here's our last one. All right. So there is our last strap attached. So once again, we did a rectangle, and then we did a cross through the center just to secure the strap to the back of the backpack. To continue making your Adventure Time backpack, click the link in the lower corner.